Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here this afternoon. I'm going to just take a little change of tack here. I don't have a presentation. I'm going to speak from my heart. I'm going to speak from my experience. And what I'm going to try to do is I want to put the focus on you people in this room. Because I can tell you, I've been involved with environmental issues for a long time. I've been involved in a lot of really big campaigns. I've been involved in a lot of small campaigns. A lot of them have been successful. Some of them, many of them, not so much. But there was always one key ingredient that resulted in successful campaigns, and that was people, and the number of people getting involved and actually doing something to try and push for change. I can't speak a lot to this particular development because, as you've already heard, we really don't know much about it. There's an application made to the city of Surrey. There's one-page diagram showing a whole bunch of parking spots, possibility of putting in a gas station. But other than that, we know absolutely nothing about what is actually going to happen on the ground here. And, that's a fortunate thing, because you're in the very, very early stages of getting involved in this particular issue. But that's the key, is that you need to actually get involved. There are a lot of people in this room, and I've met some of you, and I've talked to some of you, I know of some of you, that have a lot of experience in engineering, as consultants, as people working on stream protection, people working with hatcheries, people involved in the transportation sector. But really, your expertise doesn't really help if you're not going to actually apply it to this. You can talk about it, but to actually apply it is what really, really counts. So people in this room, when you leave today, the one thing that you need to do is actually think about beyond what you've just heard today and actually get out there and apply your expertise, or even your voice. Surrey City Council is not going to listen to one or two people that appear before them and speak and say, well, yeah, we had a public meeting and 300 people showed up. They would rather hear that every single one of you in this room send a letter or an email to your MLA or your local regional representative. It's called taking action, and you have to do it, because if you don't, it doesn't matter. This project is just one of many. If you actually see what's being proposed or what's being talked about for this entire region, there's 1 million people being planned to move into the Lower Mainland in the next decade, and you're going to be faced with this over and over and over again. And the reason that it happens is because people don't get involved. I know you're concerned, but the question is just what is it that are you going to give that will actually affect change? I got this one little story. I wasn't going to tell it, but I'm going to tell it. My son is 16 years old and still in high school. I was doing some work in the Peace region, Peace River area up near Fort St. John on oil and gas development. And I was going to be going out in the field, but I couldn't go out in the field by myself because just from a safety factor. So I needed to have somebody with me as an assistant. I actually hired my son to do that job for me. And I took him up there. He was absolutely stunned by the beauty of the Peace River Valley and the areas that we went to. He was absolutely horrified by the level of destruction that was taking place on habitat from oil and gas development, road building, well sites. It just went on and on. One of the things that we actually encountered was we were standing on the banks of the Peace River, looking over through this beautiful lookout just at the foot of 100th Street in Fort St. John. Amazing, amazing view. And then to our west, we heard clanking of machinery and dust in the air. Thought, oh, what the heck is that? So we went to take a look. And it turns out that this was where Site C Dam was going to go in. And they were just starting to break ground. They were just starting to cut down some trees, and there was a little bit of dust in the air and some noise. And we thought, well, I wonder if there's anything that we could do about this, and we talked about it. And then just, I don't know if anybody has seen it, a couple of days ago, there was a picture in the Vancouver Sun. Garth Lenz went up there. He's a well-known photographer, and took a picture of what the Peace River Valley looks like now, less than 2.5 months after we were there. The entire valley, from bank to bank, top of mountain to top of mountain, is absolutely clear-cut. They're excavating gravel bars out of the center of the river. It was absolutely horrifying. I saw those pictures and I actually cried because of what I saw. And then my son came home and I showed him the pictures in the newspaper. He was at school, he didn't see it in the morning. And he looked at it, he was horrified too. So I said to him, I said, like, don't you have like a student council at school or something where you can go and speak to this kind of thing and you can raise this as an issue and try to, make people aware of what's going on? And he goes, well, I suppose we do. I said, well, why don't you get involved? You were up there, you saw what was going on, and you cared while you were there. And his response was, well, maybe I just don't care enough. And that was really something. I mean, this is my son. I've been involved in protecting the environment for a long time, but that's the core of the issue. The question is, do you actually care as people about what's happening around you? Because if you don't care, and if you don't actually take action, this kind of thing is going to come back to haunt you. It will be repeated over and over and over again. So what I would like to see, and this is a great meeting, and I'm glad you guys pulled it together, and to see the number of people in this room. This is how we started when we were involved with 84th Avenue going through Bear Creek Park in Surrey. Started off with a very small group of people sitting around a table. Came up to a meeting with 300 or 400 people, then it swelled to 800 people. That's when the city council started actually taking notice and realized that, you know what? If we actually take this step and we move forward and do this, we're probably not going to get elected the next time around. And you need to make those people at city council realize that you want people sitting in city council that are actually going to do what you want them to do, not what they want you to do. Because what governments do right now, and I don't know if you know how this works, but city council is meeting with developers all the time. They're preparing plans and proposals. They're going over things. They're reviewing these proposals. They're sending the developers back to the drawing board saying, no, we don't like what you're doing here. Do this, do that. Hire this consultant. Do this environmental study. And that goes on for a period of maybe 2 or 3 years. The developer spends millions of dollars. He has this belief that because city council or city hall is working with him, that his project is going to be developed. And then in the end, they come to the public and they have an open house. And they say, we're going to rezone the land. And then people stand up and say, well, you can't do that. Well, it's too late. It really is. Because at that point, if the council turned around and said no to that project, they're probably going to get their asses sued because of the liability. The company has believed that they've spent millions of dollars, this project is going to proceed. So that's why you got to stop it. And so this kind of thing, you have to stop it now. And you have to be vocal about it. Right? The people in this room that have the experience and the expertise, and if you don't have, if you got some free time, get together with the organizers, offer up your time, your services, the things that can be done. They're, looking at historical stream water quality information and saying, putting a red line, is this stream already at a red line or is it a yellow line? We don't know. We know the data's there, but who's looked at it in the last 10 or 15 years? Is that data still being gathered? What is the consultant proposing? Go out and have your own biologist, do some field assessments, look for eagles' nests that aren't documented by other environmental studies, look for rare and endangered species, and sample for fish. Get that information and use that information to forward your issue, right? But you got to do it. You can't just sit back. A lot of people came to me at the David Suzuki Foundation and said, we need your help. And I really appreciate that. But quite frankly, we can't do it. We're just overwhelmed with the number of requests for help from across Canada. I don't know if you know about it, but the David Suzuki Foundation is actually a very small organization. We sound national and strong in scope, but there's actually only about 7 people here in British Columbia that actually do on-the-ground work. Some of us work in dealing with fisheries, commercial fisheries and fishing. Some of us work with dealing with land use plans. I'm the person that pretty much deals with everything, the catch-all, through sewage discharges or stormwater runoff, or logging on the hill slopes, totally destroying a stream. That's one person, and I'm dealing with issues clear across Canada. Don't have the capacity to do it. But what I did do is I just put together a handbook that's going to be coming out. It's kind of a toolkit for citizen activists, that if you follow the simple steps that are outlined in there, as individuals, you can actually make a contribution. And then 4 or 5 years from now, when you still have Campbell Valley Park and you take your kids out there, or you can tell them what you've done as an individual to help keep it the way it is. Or you can stand back 10 years from now and your kids can go, "Hey, Dad, what did you do?" Or, "Hey, Mom, what did you do to stop this madness?" And you can do your own soul searching at that point in time. So, that's pretty much what my message is. You as individuals have to get out there and start doing something and taking action, and your voice has to count. It's not going to count by just sitting at home. You need to be writing letters. You need to be sending emails. You need to be attending rallies, attending meetings like this. Go away from here. Talk to your neighbors. Encourage them to get involved. Make the numbers swell. It'd be really nice to see 1,000 people standing out in front of City Hall holding placards about this issue, right? I know there are people in this room that are actually more politically inclined and would want to go and talk to City Hall and talk to them in a reasonable way. Well, you can do that. There's no reason why that can't happen. But there's also no reason why other people can't take their own action and work together as a unit.